Welcome back, folks, to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. That's right. Today's show, we have the esteemed editor of inside.lighting, Mr. Al Uszynski. But before we get to him, we got to keep it easy in 2023. We got to get easy. We got to stay easy. We got to be easy, Greg, with the big easy. Keystone
Yep.
Technologies, light made easy, man. KEYSTONETECH.com.
That's right. And, it's my favorite time of year. There's about 6 to 8 inches of snow out there in Minnesota, and everybody wants to change their exterior lighting right now.
Right now.
As they see it. It's dark out. Let's change it. So what do? We have to get a floodlight at a lot of places. And you know what Keystone does? They make my life a hell of a lot easier by including the slip fitter and the trunnion mount, the photocell, the color changing, all their floods. Easy to do, except for the snow and the winter and all that stuff.
Well, it's such a tragedy that they moved my favorite day of the year. So my favorite day of the year is the Monday after fall back. Everybody's on time. Everybody feels good. It's such a great day of the year. Of course, it's countered by the spring forward, which is the worst day of the year. But you know what? They moved it to November. And now, because they moved it to November, the outdoor lighting boom starts a month late, Greg. And in Toronto,
Right.
we got 6 inches of snow out there, too. And so now everyone's calling to do their outdoor lighting. We got to say, buddy, it's tough to work in the cold, but you know who makes it easy? The Big Easy, KEYSTONETECH.com. And of course, the launch of Nailed's membership drive for 2023. That's right, we're doing a drive, sucker. So get on board. But for right now, Al, what are you saying, brother?
Michael, Greg, Happy New Year, and I'm sorry to hear about your many inches of snow. I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida right now as we film this, where as of this morning, there's 0 inches of snow. And I'll tell you, when I think of New Year's traditions, 2023 is coming in hot. And one of my favorite New Year's traditions, you got Old Lang Syne, the family, the friends, the cheap champagne. But this is 3 years in a row, guys, 3 years in a row where you have reluctantly invited me to be a part of your podcast for the 2023 now lighting predictions for the new year. Very exciting. Thanks for having me back. And if I may say so, Michael and Greg, if I may say so, you, Michael, and you, Greg, are each more bubbly and more effervescent than any cheap champagne I might enjoy on New Year's Eve. And I'm ready to get into it. I'm excited for this. For those of you watching on the video pod, over my shoulder, I have the lighting industry crystal ball, and we're ready to channel the clairvoyance and bring it to the Get a Grip on Lighting audience. Coming in hot, as always. Michael and Greg, Happy New Year.
Thank you. And same to you. And you know what? What has this guy got against Spumante Bambino? I love a good shot of Spumante Bambino, Greg Eric.
Well, that's a champagne, I assume. Is that
cheap one, yeah, $6 bottle.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, bottom shelf, and that's Canadian dollars. So yeah, it's even cheaper than that. But yeah, it's one of the joys. But by the time you get to the champagne course on New Year's Eve, your taste buds and your palate are already messed up for many people. So why not go bottom shelf, right?
There you go.
Let's do it. So we've got 11 lighting predictions for 2023. But you know what? I wanted to throw a little screwball at you guys because we're doing predictions, right? But we also we did predictions the last 2 years. So I'm going to jog your memory there and say, okay, here's what you predicted in December of 2020, Al, and I want you to tell us if it came true. You said that
Greg,
lighting manufacturers...
The whole point of this is that we can't be held accountable. We can't be held accountable. That's the joy of it.
I'm just going to see if you remember and what you think now. So in December 2020, you said lighting manufacturers are going to rely heavily on rely heavily on sectors of the office and retail and hospitality that haven't already shifted to a major. Or sorry, I'm not reading it right, but a major change in direction to pivot to other markets will struggle, and more will pursue other adjacent businesses. Do you think that happened in the last 2 years?
I do. So context of that, December 2020, that's like, 8-9 months after the lockdown happened for COVID. And if you look at the building statistics as far as, construction starts and projects, those sectors, hospitality and C&I office buildings, they did suffer. Now, what I honestly wouldn't have predicted, but it wasn't baked into that prediction, was how robust the market still was, despite all these COVID challenges. It really surprised me. I was thinking it was going to be worse than 08, 09, and things were actually pretty robust construction-wise. So I would say I'd get a B+ on that, Greg. But how would you grade me? Do you think there was some truth to that as far as hospitality and office going down and people had to pivot?
Yeah, no, I think a B+ is a solid grade. I don't think it's an A+, but it's B+. So we'll give you a passing grade. Good work.
Thank you. That's better than my past history. So thank you.
There you go. Now we get to go to you, Mike. December of 2020. Do you remember what you predicted?
Not a clue.
All right, you said that. I'm going to sum it up because you usually can get long-winded in your writings and discussions, but you said that lighting pollution is going to become more of an issue to the general public. They're going to become more aware of it.
I was 100% right.
A plus?
A plus. That's exactly what's happening. And
Yeah.
we can totally see that, the IDA, the IES, all different, or SSL in the UK, everybody's getting into the responsible outdoor light at night game. I saw a post on LinkedIn just the other day. Listen, this is the issue for this industry for the 21st century. I called it. Bam! Colligan's right again. Yeah.
Al, you giving them an A plus too?
Greg, are you surprised that Michael would grade himself with an A plus? But no, I can't argue with it though. I can't argue with it. Reluctantly, I can't argue. He's right.
Yep. And then I got to do my own too because that's only fair. December of 21. You didn't allow me to do one in 20. This is the ones that I know we talked about it, but we wrote it. I said that collaboration will happen like never before. Associations, accreditations, agencies will get together and get the lighting industry under control again. And new leadership may emerge as a result. I don't know.
Big fail.
Did I get an F?
Big fail. What do you think, Al?
I'm a softie, C minus.
Okay.
C minus. Yep. So that's why I didn't get invited back for 23. And
No, we shuffle the deck every year. We shuffle the deck. We want to hear from different companies, different people. So
Sure.
we got
That's
a
why we love it.
whole new batch this year. So here we go.
All right. Yeah. So for 23, we're going to start off with, and if I butcher the names, you got to help me here. Jimmy Beno from Focal Point, the president. And she wrote that our industry, I'm going to summarize this. So you can read it in detail on Inside Lighting. But it says, our industry has experienced long-term uncertainty that will extend through 23, and culture eats strategy for breakfast. Creating an empowering culture will provide organizational success in 23. So she's just saying that with all the uncertainty, the thing that you can be certain of is creating the right culture, and you'll have success. What do you think? Mike, why don't you start it?
I think she's right about the uncertainty. I think some of the predictions that were made earlier are going to come true in 2023. I think culture is strategy, Al.
I would put them in two different buckets. I think one is a subset of the other, where or they're cousins or sisters, but not the same. I would say that when you consider a culture, and by the way, we have 11 predictions to go through, and 3 of them, including my own, have to do with like internal stuff. This one about culture, 2 others about hiring, and which I find interesting because it's really not about like lighting technology or lighting markets. It's more about like we're on the heels of this great resignation and this wave of quiet quitting and people trying to figure out how to hire Gen Y, Gen Z people and all that stuff. So when you look at Jim Lee's company, Focal Point, it's a brand of Legrand, who's also known to be one of these very progressive European employee friendly companies. And from all accounts, I feel in talking to people who work for Legrand and some of their sub brands, it's a very good employee friendly environment. And under Jim Lee's leadership, I believe she's created that at OCL, her former brand of Legrand that she was the president of, and now at Focal Point, a much larger and very significant architectural brand. And when you consider the retention of good employees, it's harder to keep great employees these days. And I've never worked for Jim Lee or with Jim Lee, but if she's talking about culture and she's focused on it, that's a good principle for a leader, because keeping and retaining people is harder than ever, and attracting new people to come on board is difficult under these conditions. And even though I think it's becoming more balanced, where the candidates have less leverage and power, because I think the market's shifting a little bit employment wise, I think she's on target with focusing on culture and making sure that environment of companies that hire people into this industry is a friendly and positive one to nurture and grow people individually and professionally.
Interesting prediction. What's next, Greg?
And I'm just going to chime in too. I'd say that you can't rely on your product. Oftentimes in lighting, unfortunately, everything's commoditized. So now you have to rely on the people that are doing it. So I totally agree that having a strong culture is going to help you stand out and have success. All right. The next one is Christopher Knowlton, the CEO of the International Association of Lighting Designers. And he actually looked like he followed your directions pretty good with a nice short one, so I highlighted most of it, but it was two big themes. Intensified focus on sustainability and specifically how closed loop recycling and circular economy manufacturing will impact projects. And then also increased researching efforts on how lighting impacts human health. That's what he thinks as two big themes for this year.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a big impact from research. I agree with him on that. I think sustainability is going to be a major war in this industry because I think people brush it off. Al, I don't think they're when they speak about sustainability, they're not considering the waste side of it and how lighting needs to be field repairable, and we don't have the ability to do that right now. And we'll know that from the open letter that the nail distributors put out on sustainability that came out. You'll see that if the distributors can't fix it with their contractors, there's no sustainability, Al Uszynski. That's a big problem.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hear lots of people talking about sustainability, but I always wonder that contractor who bellies up to the counter of Premier Lighting or Atlas and buys wall packs or buys, products, and does that contractor care about the cardboard and the waste or the circular nature of the product he's replacing or she's replacing? But I think it's good that at the manufacturing side, there's not companies just talking about taking. And even like the CEO of Signify, Eric Rondelat, like it's part of his compensation plan is to hit certain ESG goals for environmentally friendly and sustainability. But it's something that I think is still a nice talking point, but hasn't been demanded as a requirement. I think on the architecture and design side, and Christopher Knowlton being an architectural lighting designer and head of that organization, I think there was an AIA survey, so not his organization, but a related organization that mentioned years ago that most architects defer to the end user, to the client, the person who owns that space, who owns that building, as to how green it wants to be. And architects at their discretion, if it's no cost increase, will most of the time go to a greener solution, but they'll only pay the extra penny or the extra dime to do it if it's at the end user's direction. And then one last thing on the second part of his comment, which had to do drawing a blank, Greg. Could you refresh me on the second part of his comment?
Research efforts.
The
research.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So research on human-centric lighting. This is the thing. Everyone's talking about their version of human-centric lighting and helping people sleep better and be healthier. But if there's not empirical data, and there's various studies, but I feel that a lot of it is just kind of like eat organic food and you'll be healthier. But I think the specifiers and the end users are really starting to demand, like, show me that this is going to be healthier for people, for occupants, and why do I need to spend 15% more on my lighting for human-centric lighting? Is it really worth the investment? Is there the ROI? And I think a lot of us are taking that leap of faith as to why we buy organic food versus regular food, because we just know it's probably healthier. But in the sense, I think there's going to be a demand for us to have more empirical research that backs up these claims.
I think he's hitting on two important points, Greg: sustainability and research, and I think he's 100% right on both. That they're issues.
And from the Yeah, for sure. And I think from the sustainability side, on my opinion, is I think it's starting to get defined what it actually means. And we've had shows on it, like what is sustainability? Everybody has their own version. But now that it's actually getting defined on what it means, I think that'll happen more in the lighting industry. And then on the research side, totally agree. We need it. But is it going to happen is a big question I have, because who's paying for it? And that's what the issue is right now, is the lighting companies aren't paying for it. They're not paying to get it researched like they used to. So who's going to? I don't know. I want it to happen, but is it? We'll have to grade it next year, I guess. All right. The next one, we had Kraig Kasler, the president of Cooper Lighting Solutions. He wrote a few things, but he just said, in general, 2023 will be a slowing economy, as a summary. Where are you guys at?
Well, Mr. Optimist just showed up in the room, eh? Thanks, Greg. You know what, though? I think he's looking at macroeconomic trends, and I'll turn it over to the Wall Street man there, Al Uszynski himself. If you look at the numbers, he's right. We definitely need something to change drastically to get off this sort of decline I think we're facing across the board. Al, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the macro trends, the Architectural Billings Index, which rates how busy architects are right now, which is a 9 to 12 month leading indicator into next year as to how busy construction starts will be. It's been on a declining trend the last 2 or 3 months after increasing every month since mid 2020. So I think there's some truth there on the project side. But a couple other things that Kraig touched on in his quote that you can read on Inside Lighting is that he touched on like service levels and customers wanting to do business with companies whom they trust. And I think that's really important because you think of Kraig from his perspective, he's with one of the leading brands. He's part of Signify. He runs Cooper Lighting as the president. And, there's a lot of these smaller companies nibbling at some of that base business that's out there. And being able to deliver great service and have a contractor's back when there's a problem on the job site, and to trust that company, knowing that they're not going to disappear if in the unlikely event there's a problem, that the company's going to be there and step up and help the contractor or end user fix that problem. I think that's also part of the underpinning theme of what Kraig was saying. And I think that that's really going to continue to be amplified as companies get burned, as contractors and other people get burned by some of these smaller, maybe not so well-established companies that have these long warranties that can't back them up.
And I think it's something we've had discussions on it too, but brand is going to matter again, and brand again doesn't necessarily mean the product; it's the people and everything that goes along with it. So I can see that, and yeah, for sure, 23 will likely be slowing. I can speak from my side that I've sold 2 of the biggest projects I ever have, like right now, but we'll see what happens next year. So hopefully they keep it going.
Moneybags Eric bragging again, hey buddy.
Just telling you, just from real field experience that we're still selling lighting, so keep it up. All right, next one is Bernadette Boudreau, the Associate Director of Operations at the DLC. And she wrote basically that the industry's focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, and respect, that's a new one, DEIR, is leading to more community engagement that will influence the future of lighting as we head into 2023. And there's more that goes along with that, and I think we had a similar comment last year on this, but where do you go with that, Al?
Bernadette, do you guys know Bernadette from the DLC?
I don't think we've met her, no.
She'd be a great person for you guys to get to know, because not only is she obviously advocating for the DEIR aspects of inclusion in the industry, she's also one of the sharpest engineers I ever worked with. We weren't coworkers, but I collaborated with her in the past, and she's like super sharp from an engineering, project management, and lighting standpoint. And she brings some really good ideas and perspectives to the table based on some of the other work she's doing now, DLC related and DEIR related. And I think it's great that I follow the lighting industry, but I also follow kind of a macro view given what Inside Lighting does. And just about every trade show that happened in the business realm over the past couple of years has really involved some of these DEIR themes within various business conferences and trade shows, whether it's lighting related or not. So industry-wide, I think there is a shift to pay more attention to it. The real payoff is it mattering? Does it matter in the boardroom when people are talking about 2 candidates that are going to be hired for a job, and one of them's a minority, the other one isn't? And is there a bias, either consciously or unconscious, against that candidate who happens to be a minority? And are there other things happening that are still like in the back corners of rooms or in people's minds that are causing some of these DEIR initiatives to be stymied in a way that's invisible to us? So I think we're still going to be challenged by it, but the increased awareness and focus on it, I think, is helping people talk about it and be aware of it and speak up when they see something that's wrong and should be addressed. And I hope that continues, and I hope that Bernadette's work on this is correct, as well as her prediction.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone knows what inclusion, equity, and respect means. I think everybody. I don't know. I don't know the definition of those terms or what she means by it. I know what diversity means, and so I think the conversation needs to be unpacked a little bit more as to what inclusion actually means. Whenever I talk to someone and say, "What does it mean?" they tell me diversity. Right? They don't say, and so I'd like to know. I'd like to interview her and just say, "Hey, Bernadette, what do you mean when you say diversity? And how is inclusion different? And how is equity packed in there? What does that mean? And then what do you mean by respect?" Because I'd like to understand that, because I don't know what those other 3 terms mean. I feel like they're oftentimes, when people talk about it, and I ask them what it means, they tell me about diversity. And I understand that, but I don't understand what the inclusion, equity, and respect piece is talking about in terms of the business world, Greg. That's not a concern, but I just want to know what it means.
Yeah, no, I think they're definitely buzzwords you hear a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
how is it always
Sustainability is
defined?
another one of these words. Like, what do you
Right,
mean when you say sustainability? What are you talking about?
right, exactly.
And this is where I'd like to know more about what that acronym actually imposes upon people, and how we can how it would, and then from there I can discuss whether or not I think it's going to work. Is it a good prediction? I think so.
I have a suggestion. There's no shortage of webinars and conference topics on this, and usually some of those basics, like you just asked, Michael, which is it's too much to get into here, and frankly, I'm not the authority on that either. But I have my
Sure.
answers to that, which I won't bore the audience with. But sit down on one of those, because I think they'll go through it, especially if the presenter is expert or close to expert on this topic. I think you'll be able to learn some different perspectives, but maybe one person's definitions are slightly different than another person's. But I think all of us, no matter where we fall in the realm of what our makeup is, can learn and maybe think outside the box a little bit more by participating in these webinars and conferences that are on this topic.
Yes, all of us.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Next one is Tom Benton, the VP and GM of Luminaires at Current. And he, to sum it up, said, given the backdrop of a highly volatile 2022, I think we are looking at a return to a degree of normalcy next year. What is
So
normal?
we have Kraig differing here with we have some controversy on the list, Al. What, again, another term, normalcy. What do you mean? What does he mean by that? Does that mean the business, Al? Is he referring to the purchasing managers index is going to go back to normal? Does he mean that there's going to be less restrictions, or there's not going to be, like, what it's an interesting optimistic prediction that I hope comes true, but I don't know exactly what it means, Al.
Yeah, and look, and this applies to every single prediction that we're talking about here. We're not speaking for these people; their predictions speak for themselves. These are just our takes on it. But I think when I hear someone say the new normal or back to normal, in my mind, I interpret that to mean how things were in 2019 before the world got sideways with COVID. But that's just my interpretation of it. Interesting that Tom went on to say things about really pivoting to attack certain vertical markets and integrated controls. So it feels like his brand. So Tom was part of Hubble Lighting before it became part of Current. So he was one of the executive leaders of Hubble Lighting, and they got acquired. It closed in February of 2022, about 10 months ago. And so they just launched a new brand that's in the extreme environment, vandal resistant category. I think it's called Life Shield or something like that. So so just going after vertical markets, and they're really hyping up their controls. It feels like you're finding your niche, and you're finding ways to find those soft spots in the market. And I go back to the big recession, the Great Recession that we had, 13 years ago, whatever that was, in 2008, 2009. That was at the time where a lot of these rebates were emerging, and people were replacing HID high bays with T5, T8 high bays all over North America, and that's how people were able to keep their growth and maintain it. And I think that Tom's talking about picking your spots, and even if we do return to normal or not, that you find your ways to attack it from a vertical market and an opportunity of integrating controls, and those that might be the 2023 version of the T5 T8 high bay. So that's how I interpret some of the things he's saying, and I think it's intriguing.
Yeah, and I think that normalcy is the interesting word there. And when Al said it, a picture of normal went in my mind. Mike, do you have a picture of normal in the 20 some years you've been doing lighting? Like I look at like a time frame that was the most standard. Was there one? Maybe a 7-year run of T8 fluorescence?
I don't know.
2000 and mid 2000s, right? So it's like, what is normal? We don't know, but we'll get back to where it was before. It's all changed. So. I don't know.
That's the funny thing about predictions.
Right. All right, next one is Colleen Harper, the executive director of the IES. She wrote, in 2023, collaboration, even on likely ones, will foster growth, accountability, and provide our industry with new forms of inspiration. So she's talking
I
about collaborating.
I think that that's a solid prediction from Colleen. I think that I think she's right. I think it's optimistic, Al and Greg. I would, from my perspective, I'd love to see more collaboration, particularly at the association level between organizational groups where a voice can be defined. Say, Nailed, who we're a part of, Greg, and then working with the IES and the IDA and NALMCO and coming together and forming industry goals. So important. And I think that. I think Nailed is definitely into that. I know for sure the board of directors of Nailed is reaching out to all manner of different organizations and we just sent a letter last week, Greg, just in the end of December. This is coming out in January and beginning of January. We just sent a letter to another organization to ask for collaboration. So I think Colleen is right on the money, and I think that's good executive leadership from the IES.
Yeah, it's great to hear the IES talk about collaboration. By the way, Greg's 2021 quote that we both kind of poo-pooed was about collaboration. So it's interesting. We love it from Colleen. We were a little skeptical coming from Greg, but
C minus.
But in any case, with Colleen, and also you mentioned so sometimes when I hear the prediction, I try to connect the dots to why is she sharing that of all predictions. And the IES for a long time has had collaboration with memorandums of understanding with various organizations, whether it's a group in South Africa to reach into that market and collaborate, or the Department of Energy in the United States, or a UV association because of that technology becoming super important and having some overlap. So here's where I'm going to take Colleen's words and twist them into a hot take that she probably didn't want me to go in this direction, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm predicting, and maybe not for 23, but in the next 2 or 3 years, that the IES and the IALD, Christopher Knowlton's organization, will come together and become one organization. And there's a lot of overlap there, but Inside Lighting has detailed some of the finances of those organizations. Go back to March of 2021, and you'll see we did a deep dive into the IES. And while they have 15 million in the bank, they had 20 million in the bank, but they were still losing money in the year before COVID and have continued to lose money. They're cutting costs, but there's still some financial risk moving forward for both IES and IALD because they used to be getting $3+ million shares from Lightfair, which are now going to be much less because Lightfair is generating less revenue, and now it's happening 5 times per decade and not 10. So I'm not saying that they're in financial duress, but I'm saying it might be a convenient marriage to help each other sustain what the new normal is for the IES and the IALD.
And I think it's something that is refreshing to hear in a way because they need to do it. IES is the organization we look to as really the leading body in the lighting industry, and to hear that she said that is great to know. Now it just has to follow through. Is it actually going to happen? Are you going to collaborate? Because they're at the end of the day the ones that decide it most of the time. Other organizations are like, we'd love to do this with you. Well, we're the IES. We'll tell you if you're going to. So I welcome her to let everybody collaborate with them. I'm open to it. So let's do it. The next one is Mark Hodges, the director of lighting for Sonepar. He said that we'll continue to hear that finding good talent is hard. The lighting industry has an acute need for a modern approach to recruit a more diverse generation. I highlighted a few things here. Operating a collaborative talent development program with a clear vision of a long-term successful career path will be essential to success.
I think Mark is right on the money with that, 100%. I think there's a lot of work to be done in lighting to define the new careers that are emerging in lighting controls integrator, commissioning agent. And then there's a whole bunch of education that has to happen based on transitions to all these other types of lighting, like health effects that you were talking about earlier. There's a lot of education that has to go forward, and there's a lot of young people that are looking for careers, and they're not thinking about lighting, Al. And there's all kinds of great careers emerging in lighting right now, and in controls and all these different areas. And so I think Mark is right on the money, and I know Sonepar is a distributor, so yeah, I think he's on to something with that one, Al.
Sonepar, global electrical distributor, which really, you folks are lighting distributors, and I'm not on the front lines like you guys are, so I'll defer to you. So what I want to do is ask you a question. When you look at trying to hire talent, whether it's an inside desk job or a warehouse job. How hard is it today compared to say 2, 3, 4 years ago to find good talent? Have you lowered your hiring standards just to get a warm body to do the work?
Well, I would say, Greg, I mean, very difficult to find people that have a broad scope of knowledge in the lighting industry from which distributors need, which is the legacy technology through to the LED.
Yeah, I think having that broad knowledge, and then the other thing is having the passion to have to learn. And I
Yeah.
think that's always a tough thing. Luckily at my business there hasn't been a lot of turnover, so I haven't had to do a lot of that in the last couple of years. But yeah, I would imagine it's definitely more difficult now because what I hear from peers and things is that people are always looking for something new, changing it up. And Mike, we've had a lot of discussions on this where you said, like people don't just take the time to ride a career out and see what you can grow into and learn from. And it's difficult in lighting right now, and I think really everywhere. So yeah, we have to come up with some sort of new program to make sense of it and get people in.
And Greg, if I may say so, I think one of the reasons why you've had little to no turnover the last couple of years is because, going back to Jim Lee's quote, you and your leadership has created just such an amazing culture. Who in their right minds would want to leave Premier Lighting? I mean, it's a great place to work,
Thank
right?
you. Thanks. Yes. Appreciate it, Al. All right. The next one is Renee Borg, the principal of 16500. And she wrote a few things here. Building operations will continue to evolve. There will be a greater importance in significant investment in building insights. They're going to require a real-time understanding of building energy consumption and occupancy and how to optimize energy use, reduce costs, enhance productivity, and support tenant ESG programs.
I think that's a better 10-year prediction than a 1-year prediction. I think she's 100% right, but it's not something that's going to take hold in 2023. But because I don't believe that we have established which technology and how these metrics are going to work, but I think eventually she's a he or she, Renee. I don't know if it's a woman or a man there. She. I think that 100% right though in the longer term. Al.
Yeah, so it should be noted that she's the principal of that agency, 16500, and she happens to be in the Bay Area, though. And I would argue, Michael, that the Bay Area adopts this type of technology a lot quicker than many other markets do. So she might be ahead of the curve because the demands in her market are different than those in other lesser sophisticated markets. Now, the GTA where you are, Michael, is also very sophisticated. But going to what she's saying, I think it's exciting when you consider like all the information that these tech companies are collecting. They're using it. Some people might be scared by lack of privacy and all that stuff, which is a different conversation. But it's data is now a product. And I was reading a report from McKinsey recently, which stated that 7% of global software sales is from non-tech companies. Now, 7% isn't a big number, but you think about like a non-tech company, lighting companies providing lighting as a service or building metrics and kind of that monthly subscription of analytics to help a facility manager run his or her building better. That's an exciting path to go to, and also a great profit margin for the providers of that. So I think it's interesting to see things evolve where you can drill down to the fixture level, to the lumen level, to the watt. And I love that things are heading in that direction. And I think building managers, once they get a sip of that Kool-Aid, they're not going to want to go back to lesser reporting. Just like, when you get a heated steering wheel and you love it, you don't want to buy another car that doesn't have a heated steering wheel, right?
Totally. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I just see, I took it too as every building is evolving and how they're being used, and that's the biggest reason that they need all this data is because they got to figure out what they're going to do in the future and how they're going to reconfigure their space to make sense of what their business is now. And I think you can do all that with lighting. So good move. All right, the next one. Oh, I'm going to butcher the last name here. Kari
Matala.
Kari Matala, the CEO of Kasambi Technologies. He wrote, Luminaire Level Lighting Control, LLC, adoption will accelerate in 2023 based on proven cost, energy savings, and regulatory shifts like the California Title 24. Bluetooth-based mesh solutions are ideal. So that's a Luminaire Level Lighting Control.
I like the way he's declaring. That's a bold statement. So He's saying that we're done searching for the technology. Now it's about adoption, and 2023 is going to be a year of that. I have a hard time disagreeing with him. My only concern is, I wonder, is it Bluetooth mesh, Al? Is that what it's going to be everywhere? I wonder to myself, or is there going to be other technologies that creep in and that are able to do this with less signals, or internet over power line, or these types of technologies might slide in on the side and do a better job. I don't know, but I think there's going to be acceleration in that space.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's so many companies that are promoting the Bluetooth mesh platform because everyone has their own solution, and frankly, a lot of these people say theirs is the best for these reasons. But it's a popular platform, and I think 20 years from now, maybe there is something that's much more popular than that. But for the time being, it is a accepted it's an accepted platform to use the Bluetooth mesh. And I think that getting down to what he called the LLLC, the luminaire level lighting control, is really great because we want to be granular. We've all worked on those projects where you're replacing an old analog system. Like, why are these 8 downlights circuited together? And if you have a crappy circuit situation, you can override that with addressing these fixtures on different circuits to be in the same controllable zone and all that. So I think he's right. He's also in the business of selling Bluetooth mesh solutions, but they're a global company based in Finland who is establishing quite a presence here in North America. And I had dinner with him back in November, and super smart guy. Their company is super interesting, and it'll be exciting to see where Kasambi, but that whole genre of control solution takes us, and I think it's heading in the right direction.
I think I take it as, if you're going to do controls, just go all in, make every fixture controllable. And that one of these projects I mentioned, that's what's happening. There's a cubicle area. They've got fixtures above every cube, and this guy wants no light, that guy wants light. So what do right now? They put cardboard up to block the light. They remove the tubes. Give them the control, let them do what they want above them, and then everybody's happy. So costs money, but can keep people happy. The next one is Steve Barlow, the CEO of LumaLEDs. He said adaption and innovation are the mantra for 2023 and for the foreseeable future. Color will be the constant thread through 2023. That's a growth of lighting for beautification, health, and mood, where improved spectral manipulation, higher efficiency, and support of the circular economy have increasing value. And he also talked about addressing light pollution. There will be a new importance and urgency for outdoor lighting. So a lot of things to unpack there.
That's a lot. That's a lot of predictions there. Yeah, I think just on the light pollution piece, I think it's the single biggest opportunity we have in the lighting industry is the outdoor lighting that's out there now, and it's also the number one application for controls. There's endless things you can do with controls on municipal street lighting. We need to get after that as an industry, and perhaps switch the focus from inside to outside with the controls. And there's a lot in that one. I forgot the light health perspective. So he's covering a lot, and I think he's right on pretty much all of it, Al.
And it's a reminder when you have someone from LumaLEDs who provides LED chips and modules to all sorts of industries, not just commercial industrial light fixtures, right? So he speaks to automotive, and he mentions how automotive body illumination is the new chrome. That's the new sizzle to sell that car, is that you're illuminating the automotive body in a way that wasn't done before. And I think it's exciting to see lighting being incorporated in a way that consumers get excited about, because they're dazzled by lighting, even if it is automotive lighting that the three of us don't think about every day the way Steve does. But in going to outdoor lighting, I think he's fragmented with his the different channels and markets that he approaches. And talking about light pollution is real interesting, because that means he's getting requests from outdoor lighting manufacturers to provide his solutions, his components in a way that enables better control or dark sky compliant fixture design and all those things. So I'm pleased to hear someone at the component level talking the way he is, because if he was talking about floodlights and glare bombs, that would be very concerning. So Steve,
I would love to. The Restoring Darkness podcast has charted in the top 100 and top 10 all over North America, Europe, and South Africa. Number 9 in South Africa, number 12 in Germany. We got to get this guy on the Restoring Darkness podcast, because if that's true, if he's because he's at the top end, the introductory end, and people are asking him for these types of solutions, that means that you're right, Al. Manufacturers are starting to request this kind of thing, and so we're going to get you as a guest on Restoring Darkness, sir.
Right. I can I
So
can I can make that happen for a small finder's fee.
let's do that.
Watch it.
And yeah, and I think the color piece is telling you where lighting is going. We all know it's LED right now. Everybody's LED. That's it. I mean, we know that you can go other ways too, but it's mostly LED. So what do you do from here? The efficiency, lumens per watt, that game's kind of over too. It's all about quality now and figuring out what's the best lighting and how can you do it best. And color is one way you can do that. And eliminate light pollution. All right, last but not least, this guy. I got to spell his last name, Al Uszynski. Al himself, the
Uszynski,
editor and
yes.
publisher. He said service-related businesses. You want the whole? You probably want your whole thing written. So let's do it. Service-related businesses like architectural, lighting design firms, and electrical contractors will continue to face hiring challenges due to an inadequate supply of skilled workers. In 23, you expect to demand to ease on the architectural design side, but commercial lighting projects will be hindered with additional delays and longer punch lists due to a continued shortage of highly qualified electrical contractor professionals. So you're saying we need it's an inadequate supply of skilled workers is kind of the theme of what you got here.
You know, the interesting skilled workers, you know, and if you're a young person in your 20s or late teens and all that sort of stuff, there's an abundance of wonderful careers in the trades, and they're not talked about, or they're looked down upon. And even that facility manager position with the data, like, what a wonderful career to get into when you're young, you know, facility management with all the data that's coming out. What a growth industry. Electrical contracting with the controls piece on lighting, these lighting control integrators, these commissioning agents and all this sort of stuff. And you know, it's, you know, the young people, you know, software developer, coder, and all this kind of stuff. Get out from behind the computer and get out in the field. And there's tons of ways you can use computers to solve infrastructure problems for people, not just addict them to Facebook, Al Uszynski.
You know, you're right. Like I literally like years ago, I remember having, you know, either friends or sons and daughters of friends who would go into the trades of, you know, plumbing or HVAC,
Sure.
masonry, electrical, etc. And like literally, like this is just anecdotal. Like I don't know anyone who's pursuing it or has kids or close relatives that are pursuing a career in the trades. And then you look at the data, the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics and all the other data shows that it's just not happening. They're not entering trade school. And so, you know, of course, many of these professions, including electricians, have to have certification in order to, or licensing rather, to work in their states. And there's one state back in August of 2022, the state of Virginia, Commonwealth of Virginia, you know, 9 million people. So it's a pretty important and significant state. They relaxed the standards on tradespeople, not just electricians, but tradespeople, plumbing, et cetera, from 4 years to become a journey level worker to 2 years. 4 years to 2 years, and all of a sudden, so that's, you know, I'm not predicting that other states will do that, but think about that. Like, would you go to a dentist who, instead of going to the 4 years of dental school, just, you know, cut out at 2 and then wants to work on your teeth? Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't, but I would feel much more comfortable with the more experienced person. But this shows that they're trying to get more people into the eligible job pool because of these shortages. And, you know, the ABC, the American Bureau of Contract, there's lots of statistics showing that labor shortages are still stymieing things. People can't get off jobs on time because of contractor labor shortages. And when you hire inferior people, that's going to lead to inferior installations, which might lead to longer punch lists. So there's my 5 cents on that one.
Huge problem.
Yeah. And I'll just tell you from an experience I had. So I'll sum it up. But I coach high school football, and every year we have a football banquet. And the seniors come out and say what they're going to do next year. And I've been doing it for 10, 12 years, and it's always been, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to do this. And this year, for the first time, from a positive spin, 5 out of the 30 or so seniors said they're going to go to trade school. And I've never heard that before. So
Beautiful.
If there's any positive there, I actually heard it
Beautiful.
firsthand.
You know, I think one of the things, and this has nothing to do with lighting, but I think one of the things that we have to get over is that all work has meaning. It's deeply meaningful. We need everybody. Everyone's essential. There's no essential workers. You know, we had a huge snowstorm last night in Toronto, and you know what? The guys are out, and the gals too, actually. They're out in that snowstorm restoring electricity in the freezing cold, and the wind and rain, and the snow, and you know, I'm not going to call them heroes. I'm not going to go too far with that. But you know what? I'm damn glad they're there, and they know what the hell they're doing with the electrical infrastructure and reconnecting those wires. And if you want to be a business owner, the number one best way to be a business owner as quickly as possible is to become a licensed tradesman or woman in that case. To get a license in that area, and then you can launch a business and you can enter the world of business through that. And I know it's the number one way that men become business owners is through a trade. And when you become a business owner, that's when you start to get a piece of the action. So young people out there, there's tons of high earning electricians and plumbers. And even if you work as a plumber, you do very well. You can make yourself a good living. And all of these careers, everything we're out there doing every day to get paid for, it's all meaningful. Everything we're doing is meaningful. We need everybody, and we need everybody trained and working hard with good bosses that care about the person's career. We really need that right now because buildings are becoming more complicated, not less complicated. Building buildings is becoming more and more complicated as time goes by, and we really need as a lighting industry. Like one of the things I was advocating for years ago, Al, before I even started the podcast, and this goes to that Virginia situation, is that, you know, you could have a lighting maintenance technician have a 2-year ticket, not a full-blown electrician, but be like a certified lighting maintenance technician that changes ballasts and sockets and does lighting retrofits. There's no reason why a certified electrician has to change even changing fixtures, you know, in existing buildings. And so the lighting industry has to reach out to the Commonwealth of Virginia and say, you know what, hang on a second here. Save those highly trained people for the heavy infrastructure work, for putting up the 70-foot high mast poles on the highway, and let's get some people through the lighting technician side of it, and they can start a great career in lighting, and maybe they do their electrical piece at the same time. But, you know, it doesn't have to be that, oh, we can't get our lighting retrofit done, so we need to make electrical school 2 years instead of 4. I think that's a really bad idea. You know what I mean?
You know, Greg's the football coach here, but Mike, I want to run through a wall for you right now. That was inspirational, but also it was inspiring, but also informative. It was well stated.
Oof. So there you go. There's your predictions. I think there were some hot ones in there. There were some good ones in there. There were some ones we questioned, but it's always fun to have Al Uszynski on the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast from inside.lighting. Check out his website. Greg, I think we have to go straight over and keep it easy. Most importantly, 2023 is going to be a year of the easy year. That's right. Everyone's going to take a step back. Everyone's going to relax. We're not going to get so uptight about everything you read on Twitter. You know, you're just going to relax and remember that your brothers and sisters out there, they're in the struggle with you too. And you know who's in the struggle in the lighting game, Greg Eric? Keystone Technologies. Go to KEYSTONETECH.com. Always keeping it easy, light made easy, Greg.
That's right. That's what they do. We talked at the beginning about floods. They also do it with just about every one of their fixtures now. Color selectable, wattage selectable. Let the customer choose. And they have sensors built onto their fixtures, and you can do all sorts of fancy things with them. So check it out.
Check it out. Go to KEYSTONETECH.com. And of course, the membership drive. That's right. We're driving and we want membership. That's right. So if you're a lighting distributor out there, or guess what? You're a lighting controls integrator. Oh, you never heard that term before. Neither did I until very recently. Right? We don't even know what it means. But you're a commissioning agent for lighting controls. Guess what? Nailed is forming a Lighting Controls Integrators Council. And we're going to, Ron Kushmar and Webster Marsh and a bunch of you folks out there that are into lighting controls, they're going to sort of figure this out. What is the terminology? Where does it start? Where does it stop? And they're hopefully going to put together some education. So if you're that, you can join NAILED. Also, if you're a dark sky advocate, that's right. We're starting a darkness, a Darkness Restoration and Preservation Council as well. So if you want to get in on the conversation, NAILED is where it's at. We're moving and we're shaking. And of course, the great and powerful Al Uszynski, inside.lighting, great news source. Check it out every day. Bye for now.